What fun can be had at the end of the work week? Many of you are just gearing up for the weekend. It's the Slate. Thanks for being with us, Adam Kaufman, Matt LaMarca. And of course, we're going to go heavy NFL, NBA, whatever else you guys want to get into here before the weekend. We thank you for being with us. Again, the Slate comes your way Monday through Friday, just after the 4 o'clock Madden Sim. So right around now each day. LaMarca, how are you, buddy?
I'm wonderful. My day completely turned when I found out that we weren't going to be working with Steve Buchanan today.
For the better, obviously.
Of course.
Yeah.
Just one of the best things I've heard all week. In all seriousness, love you, Steve. I hope you're having fun out at the DraftKings Sports Betting Championship.
Mm-hmm.
But we carry on. Me and you, Kauf. We get to drive the ship today.
That's right. Bukes, Julian Edlow, they are hanging out together there in New Jersey. As LaMarca mentioned, Sports Betting National Championship this weekend. Our friends at VSiN are going to have a lot of coverage from there. So it's going to be a great time. We encourage you to follow along with what's going on in the DraftKings social accounts and beyond. But as LaMarca said, for the next almost an hour, it's just going to be the two of us as well as all of you joining us here in Twitter land. Where's Will? Will? It's going to be just the two of us. We can make it if we try. And all of you out there in, the Chat Kings conference room, Twitch, Twitter, wherever you're finding us. You have any questions about the slates this weekend, tonight? Of course, DK Sportsbook, anything you want to get into as we sit here in our favorite, finest of LaMarcas here on a Friday afternoon. It's good to be here with you, like I said.
I am in the LaMarcas today.
You're flashing the LaMarcas?
And I got
That's
the
what I'm talking
on.
about.
It's officially getting chilly,
Yeah, you got to stay warm, buddy. All right, well, speaking of staying warm, I was working with Moose, Jeff Ulrich, yesterday, and it blew my mind to read this fact. The Indianapolis Colts had not played a primetime game since December of 2017. I mean, you would think just accidentally somewhere along the line they would have shown up on a Sunday night, a Monday night, a Thursday night. Hadn't happened until last night against your beloved New York Jets. Maybe I shouldn't be throwing around beloved right now, but they did face the Jets. And I'll tell you what, I said to Moose, this was a good day for Moose and I, because I said, I'm telling you, this was not a bold call, by the way. I said, I'm telling you, over, what was it, 45 and a half, something like that? Said, I like the over, wasn't thinking 75 points. But yeah. Moose LaMarca stole the show, because we started looking at various player props. And I was really focusing in on Michael Carter, who was a just gigantic letdown yesterday. And he goes, I'll tell you what, Jonathan Taylor, I think it was maybe was it 125 or 150? It was one of those. I don't remember. Total yardage, or actually, no, it was rushing yardage. It was 125 or 150 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. And it was plus 800 on the DK Sportsbook. Oh, T Pike says 120. Fine. I thought it was higher. So 120 and 2 touchdowns rushing on the DK Sportsbook. Jeff said, I like that one. I like that one a lot. That's the one I would go with. Jonathan Taylor goes off last night, man. 200 total yards and multiple scores.
Yeah. The Jets defense is bad, guys. It's really bad. Not throwing out any breaking news there. Even in their win against the Bengals, right? They still gave up 31 points. Like they have not played well all year on that side of the ball. It was good to see, Carson Wentz, I guess, make some throws when he had to. I still think the Colts are a good team. I still think that they're in the mix for a playoff spot. I know their record is not great. I think they're 4-5 after the win over the Jets, but this team still has plenty of time to make up ground in what is kind of a weak AFC, right? Like there could be a 9-8 team that makes the playoffs from a wild card spot.
You expect that to happen? I mean, beyond the maybe, do you think that's a likelihood, or is everyone going to be sitting around, the 10-7 plus?
It depends on, like, do we think Kansas City kicks it into gear? I think you
have to believe it, right? Just based on talent. I know they've struggled.
It's fair to have doubts about them at this point, right? Because it's like the last 2 weeks for Kansas City, it isn't even like the defense has been bad. The defense has actually played pretty well. It's the offense that has let that team down. They've scored 23 points over the past 2 weeks against the Titans and the Giants, not defensive juggernauts. So if their team is not going to be scoring, 30 plus a week, I don't know. I think it's okay to have some concerns about Kansas City at this point. As for the Colts, here's their remaining schedule. They still have 2 left with the Jaguars. They have the Bills, the Bucks, the Texans, the Patriots, the Cardinals, the Raiders. It's a rough schedule. So if we give them the 2 wins versus Jacksonville, the 1 win versus Tampa Bay, that only gets them to 7. That means they would have to win at least 2 more versus the Bills, the Bucks, the Patriots, the Cardinals, and the Raiders. That's going to be a tough ask. So I still think they're underdogs to make the playoffs, but I think the team is better than their record.
CEH in the chat, by the way, says, you're tripping, Koff. That was their 3rd primetime game this year. Well, maybe it was hosting a primetime game, whatever the case, CEH. That
is true. They were just on primetime against the Ravens,
because I looked at the schedule, and they definitely had one against the Ravens on a Monday night. I don't know if it was their 3rd or not. Maybe it was hosting one, because that game was in Baltimore.
Because I thought that was.
Don't ignore my points, CEH.
That was part of the reason why they did like the Thursday night football schedule is now every team gets at least one primetime game. I mean, if the Jaguars play in primetime every year,
it's true. Nope. Yeah. Nobody. So we got a resident Tony Reale playing stat boy over here, correcting the mistakes at the end of the show. Not even wait until the end.
I should have hopped on that.
You should have.
Yeah.
But in fairness to you, you weren't paying attention.
No, I always pay attention to
you. Hanging on every word. Any big takeaways from that game last night, other than obviously the Jets? Even if Zach Wilson were still healthy, they wouldn't be a good team. But they just can't catch a break.
That's my big takeaway. My big takeaway is I'm starting to worry about Zach Wilson because we have now seen Mike White come in this LaFleur offense. LaFleur, nobody makes me bleed my own blood. No one. And
bull by the horns. It's a metaphor.
Mike White played great. And then Mike White got hurt and Josh Johnson came in and Josh Johnson played great.
Yeah.
So why have we seen very, very little from Zach Wilson when healthy is my question. This offense appears to be not that difficult for a quarterback to run.
Well, I guess I would, and I don't know this, so this is just me that I asked this question because I'm not going to lie. I'm not sitting there watching every Jet snap every week. I don't know the intricacies of that team inside and out, but I guess what I would wonder is, Wilson gets hurt, they go to White, and then the guy who played last night, obviously when White went down, is it a simplified playbook like White? And it always sounds disrespectful when you say this about a guy because it's like, removing any validity from success. But when you call a guy like Captain Checkdown, you know what I mean? Like in his first career start, he had 37 completions. That is an NFL record for a guy in his first career start. And he had a whole lot of them for short yardage. Obviously, I know ultimately he got up to 400 passing yards, but a lot of it was short yardage. I think Michael Carter had 9 catches in that game last week against Cincinnati. So Zach Wilson just doesn't play that way. Like he is erratic. He is, borderline irresponsible with the football, but they let him go out and just kind of grow and learn.
But isn't that another kind of knock against him?
Sure. It's a bit of a red flag for sure. But I mean, they're not trying to, neuter what he's able to do out there and say like you're only able to do this is all. Like it seemed like White and the guy last night, like this is all you're allowed to do. We're not going to let you get us into trouble in the same way that they seem to be not fine with but willing to let Zach Wilson make mistakes and turn the ball over. They're not even going down that path with these guys that come in behind him.
Okay. I don't know why they would do that. Like, I feel like they should try to make Zach Wilson play better if they can.
Well, I agree. I'm just saying, doesn't that seem to be the approach they're taking?
Yeah, I would say that the offense has looked different with the other quarterbacks. It has been more short passes, but also like I feel like the play calling has been, we trust these quarterbacks a little bit more, right? Like Mike White opened the game. He came out firing against the Bengals last week. We haven't seen that from Zach Wilson yet. It's a lot of, first down run, second down run, third down pass. I don't know if it's a lack of confidence in Zach Wilson and his ability to run the offense. Maybe he just needs to mature a little bit in that regard. I'm still, I'm not panicking by any stretch, but I do think it's a little bit concerning when the backup and the third string quarterback both play better than you.
Fair. Totally fair. So what about performance wise, beyond, again, like the overarching what could be for Zach Wilson going forward, guys who actually played in that game last night, like Michael Carter was obviously really rounding into form over the last handful of weeks and was, emerging from more of a timeshare situation to becoming basically the Jets' Jonathan Taylor. It's like, this is your backfield, man. Like you're our rookie star, get after it. And he was elite against, first the Patriots and then obviously Cincinnati. And he was extremely quiet last night. Was that him taking a step back? Was it something that the Colts defense did on the other side? Did he just underperform? What did you attribute that to? Because this is, an emerging potential stud in this league.
I do think that the Colts defense gets a lot of the credit. They've done a great job defending running backs out of the backfield as pass catchers this season. Going into last night's game, I saw a stat that they had not allowed a running back to have more than 35 receiving yards in a game this season. With Darius Leonard, who is one of the best coverage linebackers in the league. We saw him force a fumble last night. I think that part of that was just, it was a tough matchup. I do think Tyler Johnson is going to remain sort of a thorn in Michael Carter's side, but Carter's a good player. I don't think that you necessarily want him to be a guy who's going to touch the ball 20, 25 times a game. I'm not saying he's Alvin Kamara, but I think that's kind of his best usage at this point in his career. You get him 15 carries, you get him 5 to 8 targets, something like that, 12 to 15 carries, 5 to 8, and you keep him involved. You get him out in space where he's at his best. I did not come away from that game like any less impressed with Michael Carter than I have been.
Is there anything Jonathan Taylor can do at this point to impress you further? Or is Jonathan Taylor just Jonathan Taylor? And if you didn't captain him last night, you're an idiot.
I think Jonathan Taylor is kind of entering that Nick Chubb territory of running back where, like Nick Chubb, he hasn't always had the elite volume, but he has been over a 5 yard per carry guy for his entire career. I think Jonathan Taylor is kind of that same mold. Again, like we haven't really even seen him have the 25 carry game. It's been a lot of, sub 20 carry performances, and he just makes the most out of it. He's got home run hitting ability. He's already had now 3 touchdowns this season of over 75 yards. The guy can play. He's a very good player. And he has a great fantasy schedule down the stretch. So if you own Jonathan Taylor in any leagues, congratulations. That's going to pay out well. I think the bigger surprise, not even surprise, but Michael Pittman is a bona fide borderline wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 type fantasy receiver. He's become that guy for the Colts, especially in games like last night when there's no T.Y. Hilton. Feel free to fire him up with confidence. There's some uncertainty when you're talking about Carson Wentz. He's not a great quarterback at this point in his career, but Michael Pittman is very good and is basically he's an every week starter now.
I'm not quite there with wide receiver 1, but I absolutely think he's a wide receiver 2. So I'm in line with you on that, almost with whether or not T.Y. Hilton is out there, but certainly without him for sure. Let's take a look ahead. If anyone has any thoughts on last night's game and those two teams and players that were involved, we're happy to get into it. But in the interest of time, because we're here for about another half hour, let's start to look ahead to the main slate and what we got going on. We'll start in the DraftKings Sportsbook, make our way to DFS, probably go back and forth a little bit. You got 11 games, some interesting ones, couple of larger spreads. Buffalo favored by 14.5 in Jacksonville. All right. So that is a crazy spread. Obviously, being on the road, you got Denver 10-point dogs in Dallas with Dak Prescott saying that he is coming back. Beyond that, I'm just kind of scrolling through. Basically, everything else is a touchdown or smaller in terms of the odds. So why don't we begin with the larger games? Those are, is your expectation Bills and Cowboys cover with relative ease, or is there a game here that you're not so certain?
Yeah, I feel pretty good about the Bills. They're the best team in football right now, right? They're number one in scoring offense. They're number one in scoring defense. They rate out really favorably in DVOA. They have no real weaknesses at this point, and Jacksonville has plenty of defense weaknesses, right? Like they haven't gotten nearly the production they've expected from Trevor Lawrence. They lost DJ Chark. They've got major questions at head coach and in the whole organization, to be honest. So a lot of times when you see a spread like this, you'll get some sharp target on the underdog, because a lot of times these spreads are inflated. We haven't seen that yet to start this week, right? 95% of the dollars siding with the Bills. So it's just very hard to make a case for Jacksonville keeping this game competitive. As far as Dallas, I think Denver is clearly a better team than Jacksonville, and Dallas is not as good as the Bills. But Denver trading away Von Miller, to me, kind of is like waving a white flag. Like you're
Von Miller, who, by the way, is already trying to recruit Odell Beckham Jr. to the Rams. Just to let people know.
Interesting. Okay. To me, that's like sending the wrong message to your players, right? You're saying we're not really playing to win as many games as we can right now, because if we were, we would have kept Von Miller. So I don't know if the team is going to be in the best headspace in this contest. Obviously, adding Dak Prescott back in to this team that has already been so good. I mean, they pretty much dominated the Vikings last week without it. A couple of
comeback win in the final minute. I wouldn't say they dominated them, but
if you look at yardage,
Cooper Rush was very good, and obviously Amari Cooper was elite. CeeDee Lamb, who is, you wanted like Michael Pittman, like you want to talk about breakout guys. CeeDee Lamb obviously has been that this year as well. It was a great win. It was a great primetime road win.
They outgained the let's see, I'm pulling up the box score. It felt like the Cowboys were moving the ball at will in that game. Yeah, they outgained the Vikings 419 to 278. That's pretty much domination with your backup quarterback. So I know that they had the 2 turnovers that kept points from going on the board, but this team is really good. They're a very good team. And I think that if this Denver team isn't fully like in the right mind frame, I don't know if they can keep this one close.
What are your thoughts on, just to keep going with this game a little bit, Dallas in general? Like Nick Eatman, who covers the Cowboys, has for a couple decades for the team's website. We talk to him here on our DraftKings channels every week. It's always great chatting with him. And, there have obviously been some rough years in recent history. Last year, certainly among them. But this year, I said to Nick, and I'm curious as to your thoughts, because, the team, I tweeted this, like you can go back to that first game, week 1, kick off the season. I know they lost, but they played a real competitive game against Tampa Bay. And I felt like, man, if Dallas plays like this all year, and I know it's a loss, if Dallas plays like this all year, this team is going to be exponentially better than it was last season. Like this is a real deal loss. This is one of those kind of like moral victories sorts of losses. And I had like Giants fans tweeting at me like, yeah, okay, well, the Giants last year had blah, blah, blah. No, like I think that was a sign of things to come. We've seen it. They have now won 6 straight games. And my question for Nick was, you've kind of been so a believer along the way, with this winning streak and obviously the things that have gone well and Dak coming back and on. But to go out and win in Minnesota in prime time without Dak, with Cooper Rush as your quarterback in his first career NFL start, completing his first pass out there or second pass, of his career. Are you now a believer at 6-1 as compared to some of those other teams that are 7-1? You're all in the sort of bunched up together. Like, is this a true, not just, hey, they're going to go out and win the NFC East. Are they a legitimate Super Bowl championship contender? And, he's finally coming along to that, but obviously, connected to the organization as well. How do you feel about it?
The big question is, do you believe in this defense, right? If you think that they can get stops against good offenses in games that matter, there are no concerns about the offensive end, right? But can Randy Gregory continue to play incredible, right? He has the second highest Pro Football Focus grade amongst edge rushers this season. Can Trayvon Diggs continue to, come up with basically an interception a game? I know he's cooled down a bit recently, but
no, it's just the one game he didn't do it. Every other game he has.
So if you think that the defense is legit and the numbers are pretty good, right? They're 6th in DVOA right now, defensive DVOA. I see no reason why this team can't contend with the true class teams of the NFC, right? I think that this year, more than any year in a while, and I feel like we said this a lot, but it's wide open. I think you can make a case for 5 or 6 different teams in the NFC being the team to beat.
Taking a look here at some of the other games, too, as we continue to bounce around the NFL, LaMarca, here this weekend. Some of the larger spreads we've covered, obviously, but some of the bigger totals, some of the bigger point totals here. Got 50 for the Vikings and Ravens, 49 that Broncos-Cowboys game. A lot of mid-40s, upper 40s, Chargers-Eagles, 49.5. 52.5 is the big one, Titans-Rams. Is that the game that you're expecting a ton of offense from? Like, are you in alignment with the odds makers here at the DraftKings Sportsbook, but that is going to be the game that is the high game of the week, or is there another one that you think is going to surprise us, a la last night, going for 75 points?
I think that this game definitely has the most offensive potential. That's not to say that we can't get a weird performance like we had last night, but I would expect these two teams to combine for, 53, 54 plus pretty frequently. Tennessee has played great offensively of late. We know what the Rams can do on that side of the ball. This looks like an over game to me. 93% of the dollars so far in that game landing on the over.
Which game are you most interested in general? Whatever the we've been talking spreads, over unders, but whatever the metric that is drawing you to it, or just the fact that you think it'll be a great, compelling football game. Which one stands out to you?
I gotta say, it is not going to be the most compelling football game the most, but I'm really interested in this Houston versus the Miami Dolphins game because
please tell us why.
There are so many
Deshaun Watson wasn't traded.
Well, that's part of it, right? This is the Deshaun Watson could have been bowl. But more importantly, we get Tyrod Taylor back this week. And Davis Mills. I never bothered to learn his pronunciation, and I'm glad Davis. That I didn't.
It's not like Davis Bertans.
I'm glad that I didn't waste the 30 seconds it would have taken me to learn that.
Yeah, okay? just a regular dude, just regular old Davis Mills.
I like Davis better.
Well, I mean, his parents might disagree.
Terrible. I don't care what his parents think because he's not an NFL quarterback. All right.
Hey, you put some respect on his name. He was their first round. He was their very first pick this year. 3rd round, but he was their very first pick.
An absolute waste of a draft pick. Tyrod Taylor is a humongous upgrade over him.
Well, if we're going to say names right, it's Tyrod Taylor.
Oh my God.
If we're going to zero in on, if you're going to call Davis Mills Davis.
This is part of my shtick, apparently. I call people by the wrong name.
Tell me more about Robert Tunyon.
Tyrod Taylor is a massive upgrade. So I think the fact that we're still catching 5.5 points with them here, that's a really appealing bet to me. The Dolphins are not good. The Texans aren't good either, but the only game we really saw with Taylor, they beat the doors off of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I think that upgraded QB play, they still have, Brandon Cooks, who for some reason wasn't moved before the trade deadline.
Yeah.
I think that they can win this game outright.
If everyone remembers what he tweeted just a week or so ago, it's probably how he feels about the fact that he wasn't moved at the trade deadline too. What game really interests me, and maybe it's just the narratives, but honestly, it's bigger than that.
Don't you dare throw the Patriots at me right now.
It's the Stephon Gilmore Bowl. No, it's honestly not that one. I mean, personally, I am interested and invested in that game, but that's not what I'm getting at. We're talking bigger picture here. I would say that if Bukes were here, I would spend a lot of time talking about the Patriots-Panthers game. I'm talking about the Packers and Chiefs, man. Jordan Love starting with Aaron Rodgers, not even on the sideline, watching from home, obviously, in his, COVID situation. He had if nothing else, a fascinating interview earlier today with Pat McAfee. If anyone missed it, you can spend a half hour listening to that and all the science behind it. But, Green Bay Packers and Jordan Love, with Devonte Adams coming back from his COVID situation, Aaron Jones, the other AA run, in a really good spot, obviously. And this Chiefs team that we were talking about before, the offense is the offense, right? It's Mahomes, it's Kelsey, it's Hill, and all the other weapons that they've got. But the defense has just been terrible. The fact that Kansas City is favored by 7.5 points, even at home, even without Aaron Rodgers on the other side, it honestly surprises me.
Yeah, well, the public, right? You would normally think backup quarterback against the Chiefs, right? The Chiefs are going to be a massive public team. Not the case. Packers 68% of the spread bets so far this week. So people see this Kansas City Chiefs team. They're 3-13 against the spread in their last 16 regular season games. Like I mentioned, the offense has been struggling recently. We know about the defensive woes. And this is a big opportunity for Jordan Love, right? I don't think it's hyperbole to say that this game could impact the Packers next year, right? If Jordan Love...
Before all of this, the plan was for Jordan Love to be the quarterback next year. How in the world could they think about bringing Aaron Rodgers back now?
Right. And especially if Love comes out and he looks competent, then I think that they definitely make the move onto Love next season. I'm taking the Packers with the points. It is a little bit scary that they're such a public underdog at this point, right? Eventually it feels like the Chiefs are going to come and have one of these lay the smackdown type weeks, but I've been saying that for a month now, and it just hasn't happened.
How will Devonte Adams and Aaron Jones, for that matter, the main Packers options, obviously, how are these guys going to fare in your estimation? Because I know we don't know till we know, but how do they project with Jordan Love under center as opposed to Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Devonte Adams gets a downgrade, right? As much as Jordan Love, I would say a pretty significant downgrade. Yeah, because the chemistry that he had with Rodgers, the way that Rodgers just peppered him with targets, we don't know if Love's going to do that. I would say Jones, you give him a stock up because they could look to run the ball a little bit more. Maybe get Jones some manufactured screen passes and stuff like that.
That's what I was thinking.
And whoever gets touches against this Chiefs defense, you would expect to do pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just what I always wonder. Like we were talking about, White and Carter earlier with the 9 catches he had against the Bengals. I think of a guy coming in for the first time. In the case of Jordan Love, obviously, who's your safety blanket? And your safety blankets, even if it's more than one guy, it's just in terms of simplifying the offense. It's short screen passes. Your running back out of the backfield who's a capable pass catcher and then some, in Aaron Jones, tight ends, big targets. Devonte Adams makes me nervous this week, but Aaron Jones, I think, is going to be just fine. I think he's going to have a strong week.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how often Love tucks it and runs, right? Because that's the other thing you kind of have to factor into the equation, is that some of these quarterbacks who are plus athletes, when they get into a little bit of trouble, they're just going to take off. Mm-hmm. Love is a good athlete for the quarterback position, so that is a potential outcome, but I still think Jones gets enough work, even just from traditional handoffs, to return some value here.
T Pike, undercover boss Tom, our technical director, shouted out the weekly special for the Browns Bengals, Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon combining for 2.5 touchdowns rushing, plus 330 on the DK Sportsbook. What do you think?
I'll pass.
Not a taker on that.
No, listen, can they score 3 touchdowns? I suppose. Cleveland is third in rush defense DVOA. The Bengals are 10th. Yeah, I don't think I would need closer to like 5-1 probably. So T-Pain, if you can make that happen, get it up to 5-1 and then come talk to me.
There any props that I ask you this every week, but there any props that that you're liking right now that you've been tracking during the week? I know a lot of that stuff you might not dig into until Sunday morning, obviously, but as we sit here on a Friday afternoon with what you know at the moment.
Yeah, I'm more of a weekend type prop guy, but
yeah,
how about we go right back to Jordan Love? I'm showing his rushing prop is 8.5 yards. If you want to confirm that, if that's still there,
I'm happy to confirm it.
If that's still 8.5 yards, we're gonna go bombs away on that bad boy.
8.5 yards. That's what it is. Jordan Love minus 120 on the over.
Bombs away.
Aaron Jones at 62.5. His receiving yards are 31.5. That's the over I'd be I'm attracted to. Aaron Jones on the over 31.5 receiving.
Jordan Love can get 9 rushing yards on one play.
For sure.
And I think he's going to,
rushing and receiving Aaron Jones 99.5.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah.
That's not bad. It's hard for me to look past anything other than that big, juicy 8.5 hanging right there.
Hammer it. Yeah, that is interesting. All right. Well, why don't we let's keep the NFL talk going, obviously, and take a little look here. I think our screen share is still up. So we'll take a little look at the $3.5 million fantasy football millionaire contest. Part of the Tournament of Champions, trying to win a ticket, obviously, and $1 million.
I won that tournament.
Yeah, get into it, baby. You got the 12 gamer overall with Sunday night. Obviously the it should be 11. I mean, it's 11 gamer on Sunday with the main slate. So
that's correct.
Yeah. So who we can sort of we'll do this quickly, but we can just kind of go like one guy, be it a stud or a value that you really like at each of the positions here.
Sure.
So we'll start with the quarterbacks. Obviously, Josh Allen, I know he's the most expensive, but he is in a great spot this week. Lamar Jackson is in a great spot. Certainly. Jalen Hurts is in a real solid spot for a bounce back. Like we talk about him all the time. He's a guy that typically is a reliable, 23, 25 fantasy points. He was terrible last week, despite his team putting up 44 points. They all did it rushing. Yeah,
we found the game script that can finally beat Jalen Hurts. It's the Eagles run the ball by 40 points. Yeah, that's the game script that can defeat Jalen Hurts.
I mean, he only had 11 points last week, but I could pull up his game log here. Yeah, 11
he threw the ball 14 times. Like it's just a very weird week that you will not see again from the Eagles.
Well, and even he went 7 for 71 on the ground. He just no touchdowns. There were no passing touchdowns in that game for him, and obviously no rushing touchdowns either. But I threw out a few names, but who do you like among the QBs this weekend?
Yeah, I think Hurts is definitely a strong option at 6,700. The Chargers aren't a great matchup, but that's just a very good price tag for him. Josh Allen is a great pay up, but it's very tough to pay up for a quarterback in like a cash game. If you want to build some bill stacks for tournaments like the Millie Maker that we're looking at here, I think that's rather, that would be how I approach Josh Allen, because we know he's got the 40-point week in him, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we want from Josh Allen when we're paying this price tag for him. So let's hunt it in tournaments. I don't think we need to in cash games. Jordan Love, 4,400. Sure. Sign me up for that, given that I think he is a good athlete. Like anytime I can get a quarterback that can run at 4,400, I'll live with that. And then Derek Carr, 5,900. Yeah. Derek Carr's just kind of had a very overlooked season. He's been great. Mm-hmm. Very efficient. I like him.
Yeah, that's another guy that's always getting you. I mean, twice he hasn't, but for the most part, he's getting you 20 plus. He's averaging 22. So absolutely. All right. Let's go running backs here. We've right there at the top of the heap, notable, at least for right now, Christian McCaffrey is at the moment still designated to return, correct, this weekend?
Yes.
So So that, certainly a factor coming off IR, the injury. I would say Austin Eckler is probably the guy that jumps out the most. Aaron Jones, I think, is in a really good spot as well. We talked about him. You could Devontae Booker. I think a lot of people are going to be in love with this week at $5,900. Who's standing out to you?
So I think my favorite play right now at the position is Zeke at 7K. That's too cheap for him given what we've seen this season. So last week he didn't have a great game. He had 11.3 DraftKings points. The first game of the year against Tampa Bay, he had a poor game because Dallas just threw the ball like a million times in that game. But other than that, he's had between 17.7 and 28.2 DraftKings points in every game. I just think he's very reliable now that Dak Prescott is back in the offense. We know that, yes, he's in a committee with Tony Pollard, but he's going to get the touches near the goal line. And Zeke does still get targets, even though Pollard might be like the preferred pass catching back. So I think 7K for Zeke is a very good price tag.
Let's make the move to wide receivers here. Devonte Adams, again, I just don't like him at that top price. Obviously Tyreek Hill. Deebo Samuel is going to get a lot of attention naturally.
Oh, he's questionable.
Yeah, if he plays, he will get a lot of attention. I'm trying to think of some of the guys that don't necessarily jump out. Once you get toward some of the mid tier, who are you liking here?
Yeah, from an ownership perspective, it looks like Hunter Renfrow is going to be very popular at 4,800 for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper, 5,700. That's a very cheap price tag for Amari. So I think he's going to catch a bunch of ownership. And then Tyreek, 7,900 for Tyreek feels like larceny, right? He was 8,900 just a few weeks ago. He's coming off of 18 targets last week. He didn't get loose for a long one, but 18 targets for Tyreek Hill, that's a monster week potential if he's going to see that much. And it's not like that's a massive outlier. He's had at least 12 targets in 4 of the past 5 weeks.
It is wild too that he went for the 27.5 fantasy points and salary dropped. I mean, only by $100, but just the fact that it even happened after being targeted, like you said, 18 times. That's not a recipe for your salary going down typically.
Right. And we've talked about the Chiefs' defensive deficiencies, but the Packers are not a good defensive team either, especially in the secondary without Jair Alexander.
Tight ends, my friend. Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, I think, and Kyle Pitts in particular, better plays. I'd rather pay down a tight end as compared to Travis Kelce this week. George Kittle, I just saw an alert on my phone. It looks like George Kittle. I know it says IR, but he's expected to come back this weekend. So something to keep an eye on, obviously. And, there are some decent pay down options. I know if people are going to be looking at value, they're going to be looking at the Tommy Sweeneys of the world, guys like that. But, in terms of the studs, do you agree? Is it a week that you're less inclined to pay up for a Kelce and you're looking more toward some of the guys that come in a grand or so under?
I do think 7K for Kelce is a good price tag, but Darren Waller at 6,200, right? If it isn't obvious, the Raiders stack is kind of popping to me, I think, as an obvious target on this slate. It's cheap. Then there are a lot of potential targets for, Waller and Renfro. And, if you want to get weird, Bryan Edwards, you could use him instead of one of those two guys. So I think Waller is a very strong play, but my top tight end of the week, Albert Okwuegbunam.
I'm just impressed that you were able to say it.
Okwuegbunam. He's 2,600. Noah Fant is out. Okwuegbunam had 5 targets last year in his only game without Fant. And this guy is like a stud athlete at tight end, right? We talk about Kyle Pitts, and Kyle Pitts kind of breaks the mold for what you look for at a tight end. But Okwuegbunam, 4.4940. That's in the 99th percentile for tight ends and 99th percentile as far as speed score. So this guy is dangerous. He just needs to get a chance to see consistent playing time. And this could be the week.
I wasn't sure that I could say Akui Bunum, so I was just going to go with Albert. And I was going to. I know you like when I do this. I was going to nickname him Al O. Al O.
They do. They call him
like
Albert
Aloe because you ready? He protects you from getting burned. Huh?
I see what you did there.
Yeah, you see what I did there? Well, Al O. Rostrum.
If you want another value,
don't worry, folks. The 7:00 show is different from the 6 or 5 o'clock show.
Tyler Conklin at 3K is another very strong value at the position, just in case you don't feel the need for Aloe.
What must be a purely selfish season-long question from our guy, undercover boss Tom. What do you think of Zach Ertz, especially if Kyler Murray doesn't play?
No. No, if Kyler Murray doesn't play. I don't even know who the Cardinals' backup quarterback is.
Oh, I have the internet. I can tell you. Hang on. Cardinals depth chart. You should guess. It's not. It should be. It's not, but it should be like Blake Bortles. Colt McCoy is the answer.
Oh, C-Mac. Okay.
Yeah. Colt McCoy, the answer to that little trivia question.
All right, then I amend my answer to definitely no.
Colt McCoy, would you like to guess the last time that he
started an NFL game last year with the Giants?
No, I mean, the answer would have been the same, but no, I was going to say the last time that he played an NFL game. But yeah, still last year with the Giants. Or through an
he
NFL
actually won.
More,
he beat, I want to say he beat Seattle last year, but major outlier game.
Yeah.
Colt McCoy stinks.
Hey, he always speaks kindly of you.
Well, he doesn't have to.
Let's see. Robbie Noble. See you, buddy. Appreciate you. All right, let's go DST.
No, I refuse to go DST.
No, I'm gonna do it just for all the people out there that
we have a question
themselves in season long that took a Colts flyer last night while they're
we have a question from Fooligan. All right.
Oh, Pifu?
Yeah. Best NBA play tonight under 4K.
Oh, watch this. Boom. NBA, right here, India. All right. Best sub 4K play. You know what? I'm gonna give you one too, but I'm gonna let you go first.
No, I want you to go first.
I don't want to go first because I gotta scroll through here for a minute and
all right, then I'll go first.
Well, yeah, that was what I said. You go first.
Dougie McBuckets.
Yeah,
3,800. Yeah, with no Jakob Poeltl. How's that pronunciation? See, all the European big men in the NBA, I can pump those out for days. With no Jakob Poeltl, I think McDermott's minutes floor is pretty safe. He had a bad first game back from injury, but he still played 25.8 minutes. He's a pretty good permanent contributor given his ability to shoot the ball. He's I like him. I like him at 3,800.
All right. So does it have to be sub 4K or can it be 4K on the nose?
The question was under 4K, but if you want to go 4K, I'll allow it.
All right. Well, I'll do both. I'll do both. If we're gonna do 4K and you'll allow it, Pat Beverly. That's the guy that I'm looking at. That's
a very strong play.
Yeah, Pat Beverly is your 4K play. But if we're gonna go below 4K, how about Devin Vassell? Devin Vassel's in a good spot tonight. Let's look at his.
You hated on my Doug McDermott play, but then you're going to break out Devin Vassell.
Yeah, I am. Look at this. Look at this game log from Devin Vassell. Right.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, Devin Vassell's gone for 28 plus 3 out of his last 5 games. Let's take a little look see at your Doug.
It ain't Doug play.
Yeah, he's got 30 once in the last 5 games.
Yeah, look at that 30 burger though. That's a nice 30
it was so good. So I mean, yeah, when a guy goes 7 out of 11 from 3. So yeah, I'll poo-poo your Dougie play.
One more quick shout out.
You had a Dougie.
Davion Mitchell.
Yeah, Davion Mitchell's a strong one. I was vacillating there between Mitchell and.
Oh my God! End the show, Eamon. We're done.
Oh, it's time to go. Time to go. Hey, is anybody still watching? All right, the slate comes your way Monday through Friday after the 4:00 sim, right around 5 Eastern. As I think we, you know what? I'm not sure we're even going to invite Bukes back next week. Baseball's done. We don't need him.
Because I'm not going to be here next week.
Oh no? Well, I'm going to miss you. I'll take. Wait, next week? You know what? I'm not on Friday next week either, so don't worry about it. Glash will be here. So it'll be just Glash and Bukes. LaMarca and I are going to be hanging out in a separate Zoom. You got more Sims coming your way, starting in just a couple of minutes. Hope you enjoy them, obviously. On with your Friday night. The Sweat, that is Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to noon Eastern time, but also on Sundays, as it will come your way this weekend to get you ready for a busy Week 9 main slate. Thanks to Eamon, our producer, as well as Undercover Boss Tom, our technical director. LaMarca, Kauf, you. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you soon.